From WCI 3 Plus, with your host, Kevin Lighty, this is Behind the Forecast.
Welcome back to another edition of Behind the Forecast. It says so right there. My name, Chief Meteorologist Kevin Lighty here at WCIA. Thanks for joining us, and make sure you give me a follow right up here. All these things that you're seeing, whether it's Facebook or X or any of those places that I've got all kinds of accounts out there, so you can stay up with me on all things weather and just a little bit, I give you a little behind the scenes and to what I do as well, a little personal life stuff in there. I always encourage you to just kind of hang along with me here if you're a fan, and I'm glad that you are here for another edition of what we love to call Behind the Forecast. And what we do is we start things out every single week with our viral videos of the week. But we also, later in the show, have meteorologist Adam Sherwinski that's going to be with us. And Adam talks a little bit about himself, and we get to know him as we have been doing over the last several weeks with all of our meteorologists. But let's go. We're doing the top 5, and number 5 here. How about a water spout off the Caribbean island of St. Lucia? This occurring there, as you can see. Look at the funnel there, okay? It's over water. You can kind of see it there towards the bottom. Well, now you're looking at the sand there, but at the bottom of the screen there, and you'll see there is some of that water that is kind of being picked up. And so, again, water spout, it's a tornado, but it's just over water. So there you go with the number 5 video. Let's go to number 4. I just thought this was really cool. Rainbow and lightning down in Florida, Lakeland, Florida, catching the lightning strike there and then the rainbow in the sky. I just thought that was really kind of a cool thing. Video filmed out there, a lot of lightning flashes several times as the rain was coming down, and just kind of cool to have those two phenomena. Kind of, that's that kind of spidery lightning, kind of spiders across the sky. So kind of a cool video down in the Lakeland, Florida area. Video number 3, man, some scary stuff here. I got to be honest with you, the next 3 videos here. This is in Scottsdale, flood rescue here. This was down in Scottsdale. They've got monsoon season going on down there, and they've been dealing with this. They had rescuers there that were responding to this Toyota Prius that got stuck in the water there. And you can see the team there moving slowly through the water. Look at the fast moving, look at the current that they're trying to get out of there as they're kind of pushing along, stepping, one step at a time to try to get this person to safety. But they've had just a ton of rain down in the Scottsdale, Arizona area, and so they've been dealing with some of that. And so there you go with what they've got down there. Okay, let's go to video number 2, and it's a typhoon, super typhoon in Hong Kong. Okay, I'm not even going to pronounce it because I know I might pronounce it wrong, but it's a typhoon down there, which is basically a hurricane, for us. It's called something different in different parts of the world. That thing, just a ton of flooding occurring down there in Hong Kong, down there in China. And so, boy, they've been dealing with it. We have been so fortunate so far that we have not had a ton of landfalling hurricanes, but that leads me into our viral video number 1, and that is talking about, look at this, in North Carolina. These are houses that collapsed into the Atlantic Ocean. Here's the good news, I guess. They're unoccupied homes along North Carolina's Outer Banks, Hurricane Imelda, offshore in the Atlantic Ocean. Okay. Again, I said that we have not had, a lot of activity here this, summer and fall with hurricanes, but this is one. Look at that. My goodness. Just watching those fall into the ocean. So sad. Somebody lived there at some point, right? And but according to the information I'm getting here, the houses that you see here were unoccupied at the time, but obviously just a dramatic video to see that. Now, a lot of those houses, again, they're kind of built on those, those stilts there and whatnot to keep them kind of above the surf and the water, but they got hit pretty good along the Outer Banks there. With that hurricane, and so they took a beating there. Fortunately, again, nobody in those homes. Okay, guys, videos 5 to number one, as we do every single week here on Behind the Forecast. That's going to do it for that. What we're going to talk to you about coming up next, though, is a little bit more about our weather team. And super proud of the team that we have here with Jacob and Seth and Adam Sherwinski. And so Adam, we're going to talk to him. He gives a little bit of a different perspective into his role here with us. And he lives a little bit of a different kind of, hour to hour kind of thing, a little daily schedule. It's a little bit different for him compared to us because of the times he has to wake up to get in for that morning show. We talked to him a little bit about that, get to know him a little bit more, his career, how he got into weather. And we talk all things Adam when we come back. So we want you guys to stick around. We've got our second half of Behind the Forecast coming up after the break. Everybody, welcome back here to Behind the Forecast. We are about ready for part 2 of the show, where we always do an interview with someone. And over the past month, we've been doing interviews with our own weather team here, as we got to know a little bit more about meteorologist Jacob Dickey a little bit earlier this month. And then we talked to meteorologist Seth Bonehoff. And now we are to our last member of the weather team. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for meteorologist Adam Sherwinski.
Thank you.
Hold on here. Do I have applause here?
Oh, that'd be great if you did.
I used to have applause on here. I don't know. It may not be working. Oh, hold on here. There it is. Hit the wrong button. We have the applause, and you are back with us here, and excited to have you in here to kind of talk and learn about you a little bit more to our folks that watch us here each week. And Adam, let's kind of first. So you've now been with us for how many years?
It'll be 3 later this month.
3 years
Yep.
later this month. Let's give people a little bit of kind of an early background into how you got into weather, what made you want to get into it, and kind of how all that kind of happened as you kind of start off, because you got a little different story than others do when it comes to, how you got into it. So tell the folks out there how this became something that you wanted to do.
I was born in a log cabin. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to make that joke. No, I as a kid, I was not fond of storms, as many kids aren't. Thunderstorms are generally scary, right? I mean, just for a little kid, tornadoes are too, and all that kind of stuff. And growing up in Northwest Indiana, we didn't have a lot of severe weather, but enough to, know about it. There was one day as a kid, I was in 5th grade, I take that back, 5th grade. 5th grade, where we had severe weather in the forecast. And I remember watching the forecast a lot. I used to watch it there on Channel 5 at NBC in Chicago. And I also watched Channel 9 to watch Tom Skilling there at WGN. I usually flipped through the different meteorologists there in Chicago. But I remember watching the forecast that day, and they said, hey, north of Chicago, they're talking about maybe some snow showers, wintry mix, south, severe weather. And it was early spring. I remember we had severe weather, and we had a tornado warning, and we got put on the bus to go home, and I was just freaking out because I never thought I'd ever see a tornado. Oh, no, tornado, you're 5th grade. You don't know everything about weather. So that kind of really put me in a really bad spot. I went from being scared to petrified. I went to go see a therapist about it too, and then work with the therapist on that. And I got to a point where I was just really scared. I mean, I would hear people say something that had nothing to do with weather, and I thought they were talking about the weather's going to be bad today. They know this, they know that. When you get really scared, you try to learn about the things that scare you a lot, just to kind of combat it a little bit. Know thy enemy kind of thing. And so I remember going to the library and picking up books and looking at what the different pictures, the scary tornado pictures, learning about where tornadoes are, tornado alley, this tornado from this time period, the setups for severe weather, as much of a 5th and 6th grader could learn. And I remember just kind of watching the weather more, knowing the National Weather Service website. Oh, we got a slight risk for today. I mean, I had this and that, and the timing of storms. And so I really got familiar with different websites. As I got older, kind of grew out of it a little bit, but I remember one day, and I think it was middle school or high school, I was just kind of sitting there looking at the radar, as one does when they're terrified of storms and there's severe weather running around. And I sit there and I go, I could get paid to just sit here and look at the radar. So I thought, okay. At that point, I was in high school and I wanted to be, it was between being a teacher, which I love teachers so much. They do not get paid enough for what they deal with. A lot of my family's educators and former educators, but they don't get paid enough for what they do. And I was like, well, what about TV? Which I don't think really was that much of a change in terms of the financial aspect of it. But I will say that I liked Bill Nye. I liked TV. I grew up watching TV, way too much TV. And so I thought, okay, maybe I could be the person who talks about why it's so scary and, maybe break it down a bit more here. And so kind of got interested in weather. I wouldn't say it's my biggest interest, but it was one I was interested in for a while. Went to school for it and really had to conquer. I mean, I kind of not conquered my fear, but had to also combat math. I wasn't, and I'm better about it now, but I wasn't the strongest math student. So Kevin can attest to that what a lot of meteorology is math and physics. There's a lot of science it's just number crunching when you learn about it,
You learn about it, but unless you're in a specific certain type of field, you'll never use it again.
Right.
I'm going to be honest with you.
But you have to take those classes
to
get good at it. So that's why those classes were tough in college. And then after that, when I got my degree, but before that, I went on a convective field study. We went storm chasing in college. I was on the storm chasing team. Went out there finally, saw my first tornado, and that was kind of like a really fear-conquering moment. So I was kind of excited. No, not because there was a tornado. That's a natural disaster, but it's like, wow, I'm watching this, and I'm not. Fifth grade me would be crying right now, and I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. All the way out in the field in the middle of nowhere, Colorado, but. So that's where I went. Went to Valparaiso University, just 30 minutes down the road, not even 30 minutes down the road from where I grew up in Maryville, Indiana. With the cool thing about being from Northwest Indiana, too, is also you get the taste of winter, too. I think we get a little bit more of a winter bite than we get here in Central Illinois. So I'm not the biggest snow guy. I went from liking snow as a kid to this is the 20th day in a row we've had lake effect snow.
So you got something up there that we don't get as much down here, and it's the lake effect.
Lake effect. I remember in freshman year of college, I think it was like April, and I just remember walking out of my dorm and going, it's April 3rd or 4th, and we're talking about snow. And I could see snowflakes coming out of my dorm. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I remember growing up around it. You always hear about it in the forecast, too. And so basically from Northwest Indiana, where I was in Maryville, we didn't get quite as much, but Valpo, all the way to South Bend, that was the belt of where you're going to find the most of the snow. So, it's still an interesting process. The process itself is really fascinating, and I like watching the bands on radar, but I would not say I'm a snow person. I was more of a severe weather guy. But I think I'm starting to appreciate it more now that I'm not around it so much. I don't have to shovel as much snow as I did when I was a kid.
There you go. Where has your career taking you over the years?
Yeah.
Where was your first job and kind of how's that gone?
My first job out of college, I graduated in 2017 from Valparaiso University, and I went to Joplin, Missouri, about a month after I graduated. Joplin, which isn't far from where Kevin used to be down
Springfield,
there,
Missouri.
Missouri. Yeah,
that's
we were
right.
About an hour down the road from each other?
About an hour from each other.
Yeah, and I remember as I got that job, that's when you, I think, started here at WCIA, so we kind of flip-flopped in directions.
Ships passing in the night.
Right. But I got down there, and I was a reporter there at our sister station, KODE KSN. There was a duopoly. Really small station just outside of town. That was a big culture shock going from Northwest Indiana to Southwest Missouri. Very different. And I will tell you that it was interesting because I was a reporter as much as I was also a meteorologist. So 5 days out of the work week, I was a reporter on a normal week. 2 of those 5 days, I also did the weather, too, for our weekend show. So my days were very long on Saturdays and Sundays. That was probably the bulk of my time was Saturday and Sunday, just getting those stories cut up and then doing my forecast afterwards. After that, during COVID, I remember I actually got interviewed by a former GM over there at, he was the news director at the time, Sean Newell, over there at WMBD, our sister station in Peoria. And I remember interviewing while I had COVID, actually, at the time, and then ended up in Peoria, which was closer to where my mom grew up. She's from Tazewell County, and we still have family, friends, and stuff out there. That's our sister station, again, in Peoria, so still part of the Nexstar group. And, was a reporter during the week, but solely meteorology when I needed to be. And then I went storm chasing, too. We didn't do that in Joplin so much. So I'd go out there and do basically what Jacob does with the camera and everything and go check on the storms. And then I ended up here. So Back when before I even, it's funny because before I was graduated though, I was an intern in the summer of 2016 here at WCIA. It has changed drastically since then. I will say that.
A lot of definite changes, but that kind of goes into what I think again makes our weather team so unique is the whole connections that everybody has had to the station, and you kind of had that too with
we've had all three of the four of us are all former interns. I mean, that's the coolest thing I think. Not many stations have that. And three of the four of us grew up around here, but all four of us have a connection to Central Illinois. I mean, my grandparents are my grandma's from Edgar County. She grew up in Paris, and then my grandfather grew up in Champaign County. I mean, he was born in Fisher, then lived in Homer, played football at Homer. So big Illini fan, probably the biggest Illini fan I know. Him and my Uncle Frank too, who was his brother who coached at Muhammad Seymour. So a lot of familiar faces. And when people talk about Champaign or downstate, I'm like, I know Central Illinois that well. It's not really. Everyone's like, it's Southern Illinois. It's not Southern Illinois. It's Central Illinois. It's way different than Southern Illinois. So
let's back up a little bit because you worked in a market that had a very famous tornado.
Yes,
that happened, but that was after
Yep.
you. But so the Joplin tornado, EF5 tornado. Talk a little bit about working in a market that had one of the most devastating, weather events to ever occur. And kind of being there in the aftermath in the years after that occurred and kind of what that was like.
So when I see video of Joplin, because we have old B-roll it's an older station, but old B-roll from before 2011, there are parts of town I don't really recognize because I was there after the tornado. When you drive through Joplin, there's one side of town, Range Line, usually the first one if you're coming in from the east. But you drive through and it's like, all right, this is the commercial area. And you'll notice as you drive through town, going towards Main Street or downtown, there's a lack of trees, a lot of lack of big trees. You might see little small ones there, pretty young ones, and a lot of new houses. And you think, what? Oh, this is where the tornado went through. And it's a pretty wide swath of town. I know that some of my coworkers still have pretty much every person that lived in the four-state area, even that didn't live in Joplin proper, have a story connected to that day. And I remember when I was interviewing there and kind of checking the place out, I mean, I asked my news director at the time, I was, eventual news director, do you have any video? What can I see about it? And she showed me, and she's like, I'm going to cry a little bit. I mean, I'm fine, but, it'll bring up some memories. I remember one of my coworkers that I worked with on the weekends, he was on air during that time. I remember, talking with some people just because I was curious about what their experience was. And each one had a slightly different story, but they all connected as that was the day they were never going to forget. I remember at my last station, I interviewed for the anniversary. I think it was the 10-year anniversary of the Joplin tornado. Dave, who used to be a producer over at KODE-KSN, I interviewed him for one of our I think shooting the breeze with your local weather authority over there at WMBD. I'm going to give him a shout out because I was a part of that one.
Shout out.
Yeah, there. But I interviewed Dave for a whole segment. It was a long segment, but he told the story from beginning to end and what happened that day on his end. And it was a different story, but they're all tied to that tornado. And a lot of folks down there, some are like used to tornadic activity, but the people who had a big impact from that event, whether they had somebody who passed away from that event or they were in it themselves or they lost a home, they are a little bit more anxious when we talk about severe weather. And that's an area that gets a lot of severe weather, and some of it can be pretty nasty at times. Some pretty nasty thunderstorms I experienced while working down there. So that's how it kind of changed. The mentality changed. It went from, I don't really listen to the tornado sirens. Like every time there's a tornado siren, people kind of take it seriously a bit more, which is good. We want to see the people take it seriously. We just don't want the trauma to come with it because that's the reason why you do it,
Yeah, and that's it's a great point there is how the mindset definitely shifted. Mm-hmm. And I think, and we can talk about this a little bit here because, and this, and in doing severe weather coverage, you're going to make some people mad when you cut into the programming there.
Right.
But would you say that because of what happened there, a lot more people were a little bit more accepting of you going on air, and doing, as opposed to maybe a market or a place that hasn't had this traumatic large event happen? Would you say that
it depends on the person, I think, because I know one time we had a big severe weather event. It was actually the anniversary. I want to say the 8 or 9 year anniversary of the Joplin tornado. So people were already on edge. We had a moderate risk for severe storms. I was even kind of antsy that day too, and I didn't sleep a lot because I was doing the morning show. Then I came back to help out with severe weather coverage. I was one of the longest shifts ever. I remember coming in at like 6:30 and not going home until about 9 o'clock the next morning, 9:30, after doing the morning show the next day. And I didn't sleep well right before then because I was so anxious about the weather. We preempted some shows that people wanted to watch. We were an ABC station. They're an ABC station, so I think we preempted All in the Family, or something like that. And it was like the new live action, the new one they were doing. And so people got really upset about that, but we were cutting in constantly. And so we got a little bit of heat from that. We didn't have too many events where they got too rambunctious about it. I think I've had it more here, both while I was in Peoria and here at WCIA, where people are a little bit more, turn my show back on. I don't care. Turn my show back on. But you're right. They're a little bit more, we're just glad you're on.
Because you've got thousands of more people that are traumatized and now scared.
Right.
Maybe weren't scared of storms before, and after that
Right.
are.
And I think
kind of like how you were scared when you were younger.
Yeah, I think it's what gives us a little bit more grace. There are still people out there. There are always going to be people that complain.
Always.
But I think there's a little bit more understanding down there for maybe I'm not the one who's scared right now. I'm kind of mad that they preempted my show. But I know my wife, my kids, some of my other family members are really watching like a hawk now because that's near where they live and they're, anxious about it. So, I mean, I think it's people are a little bit more forgiving down there about it, whereas some other spots, it's like, turn back the game. And it's also the criteria is different. They were upset that they lost one of their shows that they wanted to watch. And we were like, we'll just air it later because we had to keep constantly cutting in. That's just the name of the game sometimes. But I don't remember too many folks getting mad at it as much in Joplin as I've experienced up here, because you get those folks all the time. But
you do.
Yeah, I just can't, and it's been so long. I mean, I don't remember exactly every comment down there. So, but
it's hard. It's hard to please everybody.
You know what? You can't please everybody.
It's very true. We've got about 4 minutes left here in the show. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your routine. You work an insanely weird hour shift, and there's no really normal shifts in broadcasting, in TV, but you have to work the morning show. Talk a little bit about those hours, when you're waking up, and what you're doing in those early morning hours, and kind of how your day-to-day grind is.
Yeah, Kevin and I never see each other.
It's true.
This is a rarity.
This is rare for us to see each other on this because, again, we're ships passing in the night again. Because I don't come in until 2:00 usually. And what time do you come into work?
So it depends on the weather. I always make that reference.
When it's calm.
When it's calm, I'm usually in a little bit later than I should be. But when it gets a little bit more serious, I know when we have severe weather that day, I usually try to get in as early as I can. And if we're in the event of having severe weather, they're standard. This is the time you come in every single time to relieve you guys, or get ready for the day itself. So I mean, I shoot for 3:30 to 3:00 to 4:00 at the latest. Usually after 4:00, I'm like, dude, I'm failing today. This is gonna be a long day. But I usually get pretty quick. Like when we have the weather pattern we've had now, it's really easy to get caught up. I get in, look at what the forecast was last night. Sometimes I'll glance at the 7-day, like, okay, what did they adjust? What did they change from what I had yesterday? Double check to see if there's any new information from the National Weather Service. If they've got anything like, hey, our AFD says this. Check their 7-day forecast to see what they're thinking too as well. Then flip over to the model data too, because then I have to stack my show. And I usually do that while I'm stacking my show. Okay, which models do I want to use? Do I want to use this one, or do I want to use that one? Do I want to use this version of Future Track? Do I want to use this information? And go from there. So go from the long range, go from there, and then start punching in numbers and trying to get everything done before 5 o'clock, because 5 o'clock comes very quickly. You're thinking, it's going to be an hour. It'll come very quickly. Too.
So what time does your alarm go off if, let's say, you're having to get in, say 3:30? What time is your alarm
3:30. Let's look at my phone. I'm going to pull up my phone right now and see what it's already set at for tomorrow morning. I've got it set for 2:18 right now. I know it's that
2:18. Is that weird? You put snooze on it or something?
Oh yeah, and then I'll like this morning I was up before my alarm and I was like, where'd my phone go? And here, so I'm like, all right, time to get up. And I'm, when you're in bed, you're like, okay, I gotta get up. Come on, physically get up. All right, let's get going. So, and we both live in the same town, so we have a little bit of a commute too to have to consider too.
And does that kind of help wake you up a little bit? Are you a coffee guy? Are you what do you do to Get going.
So it's usually, hey, if you get up, you get food. I like to eat. I mean, I'm a big guy. I like food. So it's like if I get up, I can probably, if I can get up quick enough, I can make breakfast.
Okay.
Or I'm gonna have to take breakfast with me, and try to get shower in and everything else I need to get in, and then just get out the door. Or I have to remind myself, hey, I left this at the station. I can go, hey, let's go get some breakfast. And then by the time I get here, usually it's like, all right, caffeinating time. Time to caffeinate because you got to lock in and focus up here. And usually the caffeine really starts to pour in and feel like it's doing what it's supposed to do. Not so much by 4:30, but usually by 5. And then by 6 o'clock, we're like, okay, we're getting either a little loopy or we're in it and we're feeling the energy finally.
Well, mad respect to you for doing those hours because I did it for 2 years of I've been doing weather for 23 years and I did it for only 2. And I was like, I don't want to do that again. Those hours, just not for me. Adam, we're going to have you back on part 2. Okay. Sound good? Have you back on part 2 here as we are wrapping things up here with this edition of Behind the Forecast, but we'll talk to Adam a little bit more coming up next week. So tune in again for another fantastic edition of Behind the Forecast. Thanks for joining us.